Today's sponsor of the Vision Quest podcast is 920 Hat Company. Leather patch hats are in, and 920 Hat Company is here to hook you up with your very own custom hat. All patches are lasered on top-grade genuine leather and on popular brand hats like Richardson and FlexFit. Whether you're looking to show off your business or want a one-of-a-kind hat for yourself, 920 Hat Company can do it all. All the hats are handcrafted right in the Fox Valley, but worn across America. With over 500 hats in stock, they guarantee fast turnaround times. Honestly, Liam, looking at these hats, solid, right?
Yeah, they're pretty. I like them.
I like that patch itself.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, one-of-a-kind stuff. I know his name's Trevor. He does great work. He's actually gotten I think we got a knit hat coming.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, we got that coming. So we're really excited to have these guys on board as a sponsor. So get down to check them out on Facebook. I believe they're on Instagram. Check them out, man. They got the best hats, I think, in the Fox Valley, if not in the state.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So get down to 920 Hat Company on social media and check them out. Boom. We're live. It is another episode of the Vision Quest podcast, and we are lucky enough to be joined by an Iowa Hawkeye who we've watched for a little while. I mean, it's not new to the game, but we've definitely been watching some shit that he's been doing. But we're joined by Gabe Arnold of the Iowa Hawkeyes, man. I really appreciate you taking the time out to do this today, dude.
I appreciate you having me, Brad. Thank you so much.
Not a problem. We always try to get a mix of whoever, wherever, however, right? Different stories. I mean, we just had the associate head coach for Indiana here talking to him about his thing, and he's my age. So we were talking about wrestling and things that we can't even comprehend what you guys are doing. So just kind of looking at the stuff that you guys go through and talking with him about, I was like, oh, finally someone I can relate to as far as we didn't have this.
For sure.
But we're sitting down today with you to talk about your story, and your story is a little different than most of the guys that we've talked to. Even in your area, as far as age group, you are, well, we'll start first off. Like what was like kind of, and I always ask everybody this, what was the first sport you remember playing?
My first sport was actually wrestling. So I tried it out when I was super young. I think I was like maybe anywhere between 5 and 7 years old. Mm-hmm. I tried it out, and at the time, it just was not the thing for me. I was just too young to comprehend things, and I didn't really enjoy getting beat up or beating up other people just yet. So it just quite really wasn't my thing just yet. I was still a mama's boy, so whenever something bad would happen, I'd have to go be on my mom. So that just wasn't what I enjoyed just yet. But wrestling was definitely my first sport. And then after that, I quit after I did my first tournament, and I lost all my matches, and I got a silver little participation medal. And the running joke that me and my brother have is that my medal was he ended up getting bronze, but my medal was silver. So I was like, dude, like I got silver, you got bronze. So technically speaking, I'm better than you. Exactly. Polish it off a little bit, make sure it looks real clean. So yeah, but that was my first sport. And then, like I said, I stopped for a little bit. Just like I said, wasn't my thing. Didn't enjoy it that much. And then my 4th grade year was when I got back into wrestling. My dad opened up his own club, but before that, I played soccer. So, and I was actually a goalie, and the only reason because of that was because I was about as wide as the goal. So, balls didn't really get past me. So yeah, 4th grade year was when I hit the ground running. Like I said, my dad opened his own club, and then I haven't looked back since. So,
man. So I already love this story because I hear the word soccer. That's my background. Like I was really hoping Liam would take on to that sport, but not so much because he was missing wrestling practice. So it's a good sport. Like when I always talk about this too, when my brother was in college, the goalie was a wrestler also.
Okay.
Great guy to have in that spot because he's not afraid to take anybody on. He'll go after the ball because it's his ball.
Absolutely.
So it's a unique sport in the aspect of having to run miles all the time, the whole time.
Yeah, but that's the thing about the goalie. The goalie doesn't have to run.
Doesn't have to do that.
That was my favorite. That was my favorite part of it. I watched my teammates run up and down the field, and I was just like, "Yeah, you guys can have that one because it's just not for me." So,
yeah, I always used to laugh at the water bottle in the corner of the goalie's net, and just sitting there looking and be like, "What do you need that for?" It's not doing anything.
Exactly.
So it's a great start already. You started wrestling, didn't love it, but you kind of mama's boy, you said a little bit, but then you kind of grew into sports more. And you mentioned your dad started a club. What club is that?
Alpha Omega Wrestling of South Georgia.
All right.
So like I said, I'm originally from Southwest Georgia, closer to Florida, small town called Albany.
Okay.
So started there, and my dad had some buddies that he used to train with and CrossFit, and they were like, dude, like, why aren't you running the club? And he was just like, dude, I don't have the money, B, don't have the time. It's just, I don't have a place and all these things. And a guy by the name of Jay Sharp told my dad, he goes, well, let's go find your building. And so Jay Sharp found my dad. They found the spot of where they wanted to do it at, and he paid for it to start it off with. And Jay had some partners that helped him out. And so the club started from there, and it was going strong for a while. And then it was a little tough to keep up with it because we actually moved from South Georgia to North Georgia. Another move mainly for wrestling. But my dad had to actually just opened up a new call tech center, which he works for a call tech center. They opened up a new call tech center in North Georgia. So he went there and started to run that. All the moves that have been made for me and for wrestling. But after a little bit, it was hard to keep the gym open, and it closed down, unfortunate. But the memory of how I started and how I got back into this will forever be there. So
yeah. So you mentioned these moves, right? So these moves were made because they saw something, right? So obviously your dad kind of saw something. Your mom is probably just like my wife too, is like, yeah, I see it too. Let's do it. So let's talk about just before you guys moved to North Georgia. So I lived in Cairo, Georgia.
Okay.
For a year.
I know that's close. That's close to the south. Yeah.
Southeast corner. I think we're a half hour from Tallahassee. Always a great drive when you're just about to turn 21. Always exactly. So I kind of know the area. Man, is it hot as hell down there.
Oh, absolutely.
So, right.
Humid as piss. Humid as I'll get out.
Right. That's right. So when you were wrestling down there, when you started back up, your dad had started the club. What were you guys stretching beyond the Georgia borders to wrestle at that time? Was your dad taking you to, like, I don't even want to say Super 32, but at least like a grappler fall classic, things like that. What were some of your memories of tournaments back then, or events that kind of blew your mind?
Yeah. When I first started, we would mainly at the beginning, we would just go all over the state. Being in Southwest Georgia, everything, all the big tournaments, to wrestle the good kids, they were all, towards the Atlanta area, so we're talking like from my hometown, that's 3.5 hours away from me.
Yeah.
So we were making those trips every weekend, and they were grueling, and definitely took a hit on the old bank there.
Yeah.
But it was worth it, and it wasn't just me. My dad was taking groups of kids because, like I said, he ran his own club, so we were taking guys every weekend, North Georgia, further away in South Georgia, Valdosta, stuff like that, so
yeah.
Starting off, I didn't really get a lot of opportunities to go out of state, but one that sticks with me, I went to, I don't know if you remember, but it was called Kingsport National Duels, AAU National Duels. Yeah, so that's so they have them in a different spot now, but originally they were in Kingsport, Tennessee.
Okay.
And that was my after my first year of being back with wrestling, my 4th grade year, that was my first time out of state, and I wrestled with a team out of North Georgia called Morris Fitness. Coach named Charlie Morris, one of my biggest supporters, biggest motivators. He's part of my story and the reason why I've been able to gain so much success, because the things that he taught me run more than just wrestling, just belief in myself, confidence. And he played a very pivotal role in my wrestling in that way.
Yeah.
But I went up there, and needless to say, I got my teeth kicked in. I didn't win a single match, and the only match that I did win was an exhibition match that my dad and Charlie had set up, because the kid wasn't the greatest. I wasn't really the greatest. I thought I was the greatest because, I just came off of a pretty solid year. I didn't place at Georgia State that year, but I mean, I wrestled pretty well. I went 2-0 out of state, but I had an 8-2 record at the state tournament. So, kids state tournament, of course. So, at that point, I was kind of thinking I was hot shit, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I went there, and man, I just got drugged. I just got drugged all over the mat. I got the piss beat out of me. It was tough. But like I said, that one match that I won was an exhibition match that was set up between Charlie and my dad. And, I think that match is just so it was so minuscule at the time, but looking back at it, it was huge.
It's
I think, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it completely changed the landscape of my belief in myself, my wrestling throughout the years. I think that was a huge moment for me. That match, I completely blew the doors off of the kid. He wasn't the greatest. I guess you could say I wasn't either, but I didn't know the match was set up. I didn't know anything about it. I just figured that this kid was some out of state kid, and I just took it to him. I think the team was Indiana Outlaws, I want to say.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Team,
yeah. I figured you would. Indiana Outlaws has been around for a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was one of those moments, and that was my first time competing out of state. And just really, I think one of the few times I had been out of state at that point in time. So yeah.
The first time I encountered a little exhibition match, especially with Liam, I can't remember I think we were up in New York doing a journeyman classic, I think it was. And there was he had some tough matches against a kid named Sam El Medina, and his training partner was at the tournament we were at. Sam wasn't there. We were actually looking for Sam. Like, Liam wanted a match back with him. He's like, there's no way I'm losing him this time. He wasn't there, so he didn't get the opportunity to wrestle, but his training partner was there, and he's like, hey, is it okay if we wrestle over the mat, like do a match over here, just to kind of see? Sam told me a little bit about Liam. I think it was his dad. And I was like, yeah, okay, not a problem, whatever. That literally just took him off to the side. There was a mat available, and they started wrestling. And, the other kid did fairly well, but Liam beat him, I think, by like 4 points or something like that. But the guy looked at me, he's like, damn, Liam's tough. I was like, this is weird. I've never had this happen before, but I appreciate you guys reaching out to do that. So that opened Liam's eyes up a little bit too, as far as like, oh cow, this club I thought was like, the club for me to be is like, I can keep with these guys. I can definitely run with these guys. So that's important to me to kind of roll up with this question then too, with whatever you were having for success at that point. Like you said, you were it was 8-2, whatever it was, but what was that like? How was your dad, just your parents in general? Cause I kind of mentioned how we talk about support systems. Yeah. When you were going through those ranks and trying to kind of make your way up, what was the kind of feedback you're getting from your parents? Was there man, you're not doing good enough. Sometimes you got those parents who are just hard riders, right?
Yeah.
Or your parents like, hey, we're just trying to, let's work on this a little bit. What was that like for you coming up?
I think my dad did a great job with raising me, of course.
Yeah.
But I think I think he did a great job with, making sure it was what I wanted. I think too often, especially in today's time and world, that parents get so caught up in these kids winning all these big tournaments and everything. And at the end of the day, I'm going to say this as brutally as possible, and it's going to sound wrong. It means absolutely shit.
Yeah.
There's no Tulsa Eagle. There's no belt. There's no nothing that should make you see your kid any differently. So I think my dad did a great job with that. He would push me. He definitely would push me in the room, but it was never like, all right, dude, we got to wake up and you got to go do this right now or else you're never going to win. You know what I mean? In the times that it was like that, it was because I wanted to. I'd wake up early in the morning to go wrestle, to watch wrestling, to look at my phone late at night and watch YouTube matches. He'd come in my room late at night and he would think I'd be on my phone doing some other stuff, as a 10-year-old kid would do. And turns out I was just sitting under the match watching freaking Sergey Beloglazov wrestle. You know what I mean? So it's stuff like that. It was just everything was on my terms. But, my dad, I had to show my dad that it was what I wanted. I wanted to be something great. And, he took that and he ran with it and he did it. I think he did it the best way he possibly could. I didn't get burnt out. I didn't hate the sport when I was growing up. I mean, did I get injured along the way? Yeah, I mean, it's a part of it, when you wrestle so many matches, but yeah, like I said, my dad did a great job with, bringing me up in the sport. And like I said, I've said it a couple of times, I'm making sure it was what I wanted, and I think so many kids now, and I've ran into so many of them, between doing camps, seeing kids at tournaments, I've seen so many of these kids it's just not what they want. They don't enjoy it. You got these little 7-8-year-old kids at camps, and they're really freaking good, but they just like want to go home and be on their iPad. They want to go be a kid. You know what I mean? And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So yeah, my dad did a great job, and my mom just, I've always been a mama's boy. I'm still a mama's boy. I love my mom to death.
Yeah.
And she wasn't the biggest fan of me wrestling. She still isn't the hugest fan of me wrestling, but she knows I love it, and she sees how hard I work, and she sees the amount of time I put into it to be great. She notices it, and whatever makes her boy happy, whatever dream that I'm gonna chase, she's going to support it. My dad's going to support it, and that's how they've always been. They've always told me, if it's not wrestling, it's not wrestling. If you don't love this anymore, there's no reason to be doing it anymore. If I don't love it and I'm not having fun, then I'm doing it for the wrong reasons, And so that was something my dad planted in my head when I first started this sport,
Did your parents have your mom did the education side, dad was the sports side? Nice.
Yeah, well, not necessarily. So my mom, that is true because my mom was actually an educator. My mom was a teacher at the time. And when I was living in Albany, she worked in the classroom, and she was actually the head of the science department of the Doherty County school system, which was school system. Yeah, which was the school system that I was going to school in. You know what I mean?
No running for you, man.
No, I was stuck. I was definitely stuck. But yeah, I guess you could definitely say Mom was definitely the educator side of it, and Dad was definitely the sports side of it, I guess you could say. Because after my so I would definitely say that. Well, we'll get into the second part more along.
So and with that being said, did you find yourself, and I ask this all the time too, especially before you even got to high school, because I know the focus definitely shift once high school hit, but with the sports and you talked about kind of having a hard time. Was there any point before you got to high school that you were thinking about quitting at all? It just was getting too hard.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. A couple times.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to step away, and I had to look at the bigger picture and look at what I wanted. And I had to, even at a young age, as a 12, 13-year-old kid, that's pretty damn tough to do, not a lot of kids can do that, honestly. That's the brutal truth about it. But like I said, I think my dad did a good job of making sure it was what I wanted, you know, and when it got to shitting time, you know, he made sure that, you know, when I had those internal conversations with myself of, do I really want to do this? You know, I answered the question the right way and how I wanted to answer it. Not because dad wanted me to do it, not because mom wanted me to do it, not because my family is so endowed and rich in wrestling and the culture of it. You know, it was just what I wanted to do. It was what Gabe wanted to do. And my dad's always made that at the forefront, you know, no matter what sport, whatever, you know, it didn't matter.
Yeah. So they're trying to set you up for life. I mean, they're really
absolutely,
especially giving you the reins. So that was kind of what we had to do too. And I played high level soccer and my parents weren't athletic. Right. So I didn't have parents that were saying, you had to do this, you got to do this. I mean, I was literally grabbing a soccer ball and just kicking it against the curb. I didn't have a ton of camps. I wasn't sent to Europe like my brother was, and you know, things like that. So we didn't have money, number one, but at the same point though, too, like my parents just didn't know what it took to make something to go that level. So I had to work with whatever I had, but I also had parents that weren't forcing it down my throats. You have to do this. You have to do this. The only thing they were doing that about was school.
Yeah,
you have to do this.
That was the one thing that was a non-negotiable in my household. So no grades, no wrestling, no sports. You're done. You know, if you don't have that, there you will be doing absolutely nothing. You'll be sitting at home and getting your grades up.
So high five to mom and dad already right there. That's absolutely awesome. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
So as you had those thoughts of I don't want to do this, you know, things like that, and you kind of got drawn back. You stepped back a little bit. Was what was the kicker for you once you decided I'm committed, I'm into this, this is what I'm going to do? Where were you at when that finally clicked in and you no longer thought that you wanted to quit? Was that not until college?
I mean, honestly, this is just brutally honest, but it's an ongoing battle every day, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Hey, that's honest, man.
This sport is as tough as it gets. And man, it'll beat the piss out of you mentally if you don't fight back and punch it right back in the mouth, you know, and that's as easy as you put it. You know what I mean? And it's a challenge. It's a challenge every day, especially at the level that I'm at right now in the position that I am in currently. You know, it's an absolute freaking battle. You know, I battle with it. It's internal battles every day, you know, and it's tough. It's not easy, but, you know, I remind myself that there is nothing more in this world that I'd want to do. You know, there's nothing more that I want to become than to be the absolute best version of myself. And I think to do that, it requires this sport, you know, and at the end of the day, it's just wrestling. You know, it's never going to define who I am or what I am or what I'll become, you know, but I have poured so much time, so much blood, so many tears into this sport. And, you know, it's like that girlfriend that's you're attached to, you know. I got attachment issues with this sport. You know, I can't, I've left it before and I've walked away from it and man, it killed me.
Evil mistress.
Killed me. Exactly.
Evil mistress.
Exactly. So, you know, there's nothing I would rather do, you know, and like I said, it is an ongoing battle, you know, when a tough practice happens, a tough tournament happens and I don't get the result I want, you know, it sucks because you see the work that you put in, you know, and, but sometimes you have to look at the bigger picture and you have to look at the lessons you learned along the way throughout these practices, throughout these tournaments, throughout everything, you know, and there's just no other sport that can teach you that besides this sport that I choose to do every day, you know? So like I said, it's an ongoing battle, but it's a battle that I will keep winning because I love what I do and I have fun doing what I do.
Persevering. I love it.
Absolutely.
So as you're kind of, you know, we talked a little bit about your middle school, having to move around or you know, what age group that was and going to northern Georgia. There's a little event down there called Elite Eight Duels. Mm-hmm. And you are photographed on their page. So obviously you were in it. Mm-hmm. Was that one of the bigger events that you had ever been in as far as the magnitude of what you were doing and who you were in front of? Yeah.
So Elite Eight was actually that was like more during, that got started during COVID, around COVID time, towards like my 7th and 8th grade year, I was going into the big events, like of middle school. Like I went to a bunch of duels. I went to Super 32. I still didn't do Tulsa or anything just because my dad and I didn't believe of it, and it was just the dumbest thing to us. But I went to Wildwood, New Jersey for duels, VAC, McDonough duels. I did that whole series of all those big duels that go around all around the country.
Okay.
And by my 8th grade year, I was freaking performing in them, and I was showing out. You know, I wrestled guys that I still wrestle to this day: Braden Thompson, Lorenzo Norman. Freaking at one point in time, me and Keeter wrestled at Wildwood, New Jersey. I have a win over Keeter, and you know, if anyone asks, I'm better than Keeter. So
you're better.
We're putting that out there on live because if you want to go find the match, it's on YouTube. I basically ran Keeter down for a solid 6 minutes of the match. You know, he ran for me the whole time. He should have gotten kicked out of the match so much he was stalling. But exactly. But yeah, by my 7th and 8th grade year, I was doing all those huge events, and
that's awesome. Okay.
And it was one of those things. It's like it's a level, you know, and you got to work yourself up to that level. And like I said, I talk about this a lot because my dad knew when I was at that level. You know, my dad knew when it was time, it was time. And when it was time to put me out there and throw me to the wolves, hell, he threw me out there and put me to the wolves. So by 7th, 8th grade year, I was doing those bigger tournaments. But even through like my 5th and 6th grade years, I was still going to Kingsport. We went to VAC a couple of times. I did a lot of duels. Did a lot of duels out of the state. Did a lot of tournaments out of the state. Not necessarily to the magnitude of like a Super 32 or Tulsa, but they were bigger events and they were out of state events. Yeah. I wrestled in Dixie Nationals, which was in state. But you know, you got a lot of kids coming down for it, because everyone wants to be the Triple Crown winner. You know, so they go and wrestle Dixie, and at the time it was in North Georgia. Whatever the hell a Triple Crown really is, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
I know I broke a couple of kids' dreams from that, you know, because every time they beat my bracket, they weren't getting past me. So yeah, I did all those things, and Elite 8 was during COVID, and
I forgot that's when that started.
Yeah, it was like 2020 was when the first one happened, and I got to be in the first one, of course, and it was super cool. I got to wrestle on the Minion Legends team, you know, which is awesome, absolutely awesome. And by that time, you know, I'd kind of already made a name for myself. You know, I had a great freshman year. I placed 3rd at Ironman at 160 as a freaking 14-year-old kid wrestling grown freaking men. Only match I lost was to Patty Gallagher, and he beat my butt. Beat the living piss out of me, actually. But wrestled that tournament, got 3rd. Great showing for me. Great time out. Wrestled national preps, won national preps. Won the Blair duel, beat Master Giovanni. But I had a great freshman year, I guess you could say. And there was obviously things I wanted to win and I didn't, which sucks looking back at it. But you know, everything happens for a reason. Is what it is. Right. But Elite 8 was a great showing for me just because I think I was just so hungry because, you know, we weren't competing. You know, we were all shut down. All we could really do was train, and you would have these little small tournaments here and there. But it wasn't the level that I needed to be at. You know, it wasn't the level that I craved and itched for. You know what I mean? As high level wrestlers, we just itch for that type of wrestling. You know, and because I can't get away from it. And so Elite 8 was one of those events. It was a huge event, and I got to compete in it and wrestle some high level guys. And man, I remember it. You know, I remember it like it was yesterday. I think that was some of my best wrestling to this day. You know, just because of how hungry and ready I was to compete. You know what I mean? And the second that whistle blew, I was on, guys. And it was so much fun because it was in my home state. I was with all of my boys that I grew up wrestling with. It was just an awesome experience, and it was a great event. Cliff Fretwell did a freaking amazing job. Still does an amazing job with the dual tournament. Right. So yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. So
that you talk about kind of, it sounds like it was kind of a coming of age moment for you, where you were really starting to realize the power you had and just the amount of time that you put into it and the technique that you had with especially with that C word, COVID, and it comes up every time I talk to guys. I mean, obviously it was a big impact, right?
Yeah.
Guys who missed NCAAs, guys who maybe missed a state tournament, you know, things like that. So it kind of burns, and kind of thinking about that, even as a high school kid, and knowing that your dad was doing everything he could to give you the best opportunities and to kind of put you out there and throw you to the wolves. What were you guys doing? You know, you had these events, but were you kind of just bringing buddies over, training in the garage? Were you training out in the yard? Like, how was that going for you guys, especially in that
hot state of Georgia, and you guys trying to work out and things like that. But what were you doing during COVID as a high school kid trying to work things out?
Yeah. For one, it was Georgia, so COVID kind of didn't exist to us Georgians, I guess you could say. We still had people going out to the grocery store, no mask on, didn't give a crap.
Yeah. Right.
And my parents weren't one of those people. They weren't very, half-minded about it. They had to. You had to be aware of it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get political about it because I could give a crap less. But
Nope.
At the end of the day, it's just about they wanted to be safe.
Yeah,
So
sure.
Whoever has a problem with that, I could really care less. I don't care about the politics side of it, and not my cup of tea. I'm not the person to argue with when it comes to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we completely we transformed my garage literally to
nice.
My little workout area. My dad, one of his buddies that he works with, they built me a weight rack and a weight bench out of wood. And then we bought some weights off of Facebook Marketplace and bought another weight machine off of the marketplace. So we turned my garage into my own workout area. We put mats down in the corners. I would have my buddies over. Actually, one of the kids I wrestled in the trials finals last year, Matthew Singleton, me and him were each other's main workout partners. We would work out at my place in the garage. I would drive to his place, and his dad had this own kind of like little warehouse that he had mats in. We'd work out there together, So I still got it in, whether it be with a partner or by myself. I made sure we were wrestling. I was still getting what I need, and thankfully I had such a great club, Level Up Wrestling, out back in Marietta, Georgia. Coach Donovan Pannone, he always had the doors open. We knew where the keys were, so me and buddies like Matthew and Michael Killick and RJ Weston, who goes to UNI now, literally right down the street. We would all go in and just freaking, man, it'd be murderers row. Caleb Hinton, Jackson Smith, David Pannone. Man, like these guys, I was training with a national champ, dude,
Right?
So these are guys that, I freaking grew up wrestling with, you know what I mean? And it was never anything new to be away from the level that I wanted to be with, because the guys that I was surrounding myself with are freaking hammers. Looking at them now, Caleb Hinton's an All-American and a national champ, dude. And
correct.
He's pretty damn good, if I do say so myself.
Just a little bit.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So that was like one of the guys I grew up rolling around with. You know what I mean? So I had what I needed. You know what I mean? As long as I had a mat and I had some like-minded friends that wanted to get in there and get working and become the best people we could be. I was set. And COVID put a dent in some tournaments and some opportunities that we all had. But we had each other, and we made the freaking most of that, because man, we would beat the piss out of each other. we would go. It would be a couple minutes of drilling, and we would be freaking punching each other in the mouth. You know what I mean? That's just how it was, and
that's awesome.
We would go hard. There was some real tough days sometimes, but it had to be done, and we had to get the work in. So
at what point when you were in the sport, at what point were you telling yourself, I want to do this in college? I want to continue this in college? Was that middle school? Were you telling yourself that already?
Yeah. So I made my family and I made the huge decision to send me to boarding school. Coming into my 8th grade year of high school. And for one, that is just completely unheard of.
Yeah.
For a kid like me from a small town, sending your kid away however many miles, from Georgia to freaking Pennsylvania, that's just unheard of in the place where I was born and raised, in Albany.
Especially out of Georgia.
Exactly. Things like that and opportunities like that don't present themselves for the kids that were born and raised in my demographic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it just did not make sense. It didn't fit the bill of, what was going on. So by my 8th grade year, we were looking at some options. It came down between Woodland High School, which is a school out in North Georgia, same school that Jackson Smith, Caleb Hinton, Caden McCrary, all those guys went to. Literally one of the best schools, and it was one of the best schools in the nation because of those guys at one point in time. So we looked at which was literally right down the street from me in Cartersville, Georgia. Looked at Baylor High School in Tennessee. Coach Rex McDaniel, all those guys, great program, great school. And then we looked at Wyoming Seminary, of course, which ended up being my option. And then Northfield Mount Herman all the way in Massachusetts.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So we looked at an array of options for sure. And Scott had actually reached out to my dad my 8th grade year about going to school there. And so we looked at the school and we went there, and we actually, when we visited Sim, it was in the middle of a freaking snow blizzard. So no classes were going on, no nothing. We literally just went there and we sat down and we talked with Green. Yeah. That was mainly all we did. We looked at one building and, just that was about all we could do. Everything else exactly. Everything else, we just sat down and talked to Coach Green. And after having that conversation with him, I knew that was where I needed to be. And that was the type of guy I needed to surround myself with, because of how much he reminded me of my father, and how much the values that he had were the same ones that my father had instilled in me, and instilled in what is important and what is really important, besides just winning these tournaments and being the best wrestler you can be. I could lose my leg tomorrow and, I'd probably be done wrestling. But it's more than just wrestling. It's, at the end of the day, it's just wrestling. That's something my dad instilled in me. That's the same thing that Coach Green instilled into all of his guys and all of his wrestlers. It was important. So that was the big decision, to go from being a small little hometown boy. We were living in North Georgia at the time, but I was this hometown kid in Albany, to making this big jump all the way to Wyoming Seminary and being a boarding school kid. And I think that was when, I knew if I was going to make that big of a decision, then, we were going to take this to the house. We're going to take this all the way. We were going to take it all the way. And there was no slowing down. What I mean? I knew if this is the decision I was going to make, then this was going to be what was for me,
So at 14, you're going a couple, maybe a couple thousand, maybe 1,000 or 2 miles away. Mm-hmm. And now you're in a community, like you said, a small community, but at the same time where you're at, maybe they wanted you to stay there. Maybe they wanted this big cat to be hanging out and doing that thing for their school. And obviously a lot of people still have places that they left that were really supportive about them leaving. What was that for you as a 14-year-old, number one, going to, just such a distance away from mom and dad, also not being able to kind of represent in your area? Now you have a goal, you have things in mind, and you guys see the pathway to it, right? Mm-hmm. But was there any kind of bite back about you going to Wyoming Seminary saying we should keep him here?
I still catch hate about it from this day. There was people nagging on me, my dad. There were all these forums running their mouths about me and how my parents just shipped their kid away and doesn't want him to be a Georgia boy. But opinions are like assholes. Everyone has them.
They all stink.
And they all stink. Absolutely. And, we just, I'm not saying it obviously can be done. It can be done. It can be done in Georgia, and that wasn't what the thing was. It was just what was for Gabe Arnold.
For you.
And I think at that point in time, that was what I needed. I wanted that exposure. I wanted to wrestle these high-level guys every freaking weekend, dude. I was going from Ironman. I wrestled a small tournament back in Wyoming, back in Kingston. And then that next weekend, I was wrestling Power Rate. After that, I had a couple weeks off. And then before that, the next couple weekend after that, I was wrestling Blair. And I was wrestling St. Ed's. And then I had Prep Stage, which is the qualifier for Preps. And then I was wrestling National Preps. Wow. So this was the schedule this is the schedule I wanted, that I dreamed of. I craved that high level wrestling. And like I said, it can be done in Georgia. It can be done in my home state, but it wasn't what I needed at the time. I craved that high level wrestling, and I went to where I could find it, and that was at Sim. And it was what, like I said, it was what I needed, and it was what was for me. Yeah. And I needed that exposure. I needed to be around those types of people. I needed to be around those coaches. I needed all of that, and it just made my wrestling go from here and just skyrocketed, and that's not to say it can't be done at home. Right. It can most definitely be done at home. And my coaches that I had at home, I'm still in contact with, about technique, about life, about that's awesome. Mindset, about everything, and between Coach Charlie, Donovan, Terry Allison, all those guys, I'm still in contact on a daily basis, talking about, about anything, because they were in my corner for so long that it's more than just a wrestling coach. These were father figures that were implanted in my life that played such a pivotal role in the man and the wrestler that I've become to this day.
Couldn't have said it better.
Yeah.
Couldn't have said it better.
So it can be done at home, and those relationships that I did create when I was at home, I still have them. Those guys have no hard feelings against me. It was never it was no harm, no foul, and they knew what I did, and they knew that I would always know where home is, and hell, I always know where home is. That's why I got a tattoo behind my ear. So.
Mm-hmm. So so not only do we have parents, coming up as athletes, but you build relationships with those people that also become a support system. So knowing that you have those guys back at home and knowing that, the old coaches or training partners and stuff like that is pretty unique to be able to have as an athlete. And you can have that as anybody else, but the struggles that you go through as an athlete, especially a wrestler, are difficult, and talking about you moving to Wyoming Seminary at 14 and kind of being on your own had to have been a wake up call. And were you ever at a point when you were at Wyoming Seminary, and we're going to talk about, some of the milestones that you had there, but were you ever at a point when you first got there, like, holy man, I'm on my own. Like you had people there. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm sure that they're watching.
That happened 20 minutes after my parents left.
Gotcha. And expect that as a 14-year-old, that's kind of what I expect.
And man, we were all a wreck. We were all a wreck. We were emotional wreck. And it was tough. And it's one of the toughest things that I have done to this day, man. And it's hard. It's really hard being away from your mom and your dad. And I don't know. They still are. They've been so pivotal into, everything that I've done. They've been my biggest cheerleaders, my dream. They've chased this dream, this goal with me, and being thousands of miles away from them was tough. It was tough. It was tough on a 14-year-old kid. Yeah. And, it was hard. And it's looking back on it, it's still hard. It was still difficult. It was a tough decision to make.
Yeah.
But it had to be done. It had to be done, unfortunately. And
so you actually had to kind of get a grip of some things that most 14-year-olds don't have to.
Yeah. I had to learn the responsibility. I had to learn how to do my work by myself, because previous to that, I was homeschooled so I could wrestle and travel more. So mama had her foot up my butt constantly to get work done. So yeah, I had to learn to do that. I had to do my own laundry, clean my own room. Yeah, I know, things that are just unheralded of, It just made no sense.
I have a 16-year-old that can't handle that right now. I'm 14 on your own. It's pretty impressive,
exactly.
Man.
I'm 14 on my own. I got a roommate, and I'm like living like a college kid, dude. So it was a complete. I had to grow up really quickly. Yeah. There was no looking back from it either. I had to grow up real quick, whether I wanted to or not. If I wanted to do what I said I wanted to do, that had to happen.
That's for sure. So as you get there, let's say you get your feet underneath you, you hit the ground running a little bit as you kind of get more comfortable with being on your own and with having to focus not just on school, but like now you're focusing more. This is Gabe's path, right? Now you're kind of on your own. You really get to think of, man, I'm doing this by myself. I'm doing this on my own. This is. Did it seem like at that point, once you kind of were able to be a little more comfortable, did you feel like that this was like the beginning of something great, even greater than what you already had? Because you're at a school already now that is known for that. That brings up these kids that are just elite level, like constantly, and they even build. They're developers there. They're not just guys that are just getting kids that are automatically awesome. They also develop. So, but as you're kind of developing yourself, what were some of the milestones that you surprised yourself with, that you're like, oh man, I did it. I'm here by myself and I just did this. What were some of those milestones for you?
Hell, I think clearing my room for the first time by myself as well.
That's right. That's big, man. That's big.
I think doing homework without having a foot up my butt was one of them too. But honestly, man, every single day was a milestone.
All right.
And just
Yeah.
living by myself was a freaking milestone, you know, and just obviously I had people there, I had a support system there, and I had a community that supported me in whatever I needed. That they were there. I knew I had those people there, but the thing that was just, you know, it was different being on my own. I was still on my own. You know, I could still go walk off campus if I really felt like it. I had room checks, but hell, the second they left, I could just pop right out of my room.
There's no invisible fence with like a collar on or like something around your ankle that'll shock you?
Like that. No, nothing like there were alarms on the doors, but the cameras didn't work half of the time. So I figured out the blind spots really quickly. But anyway, so every day was a milestone, man. Just living by myself for the first time was a big thing, and doing things by myself. Hell, I was doing life by myself for 3 years of my life. You know what I mean? And my parents were there. I had my support systems there, but they weren't there. You know, they couldn't control what I did, and no one could. You know, I still did my own thing and marched to the beat of my own drum at the end of the day. But I would say a big thing for me was making the lineup, and that was a process in and of itself. I had to wrestle off a kid named Nico Katsuyoshi. Kid's pretty good. Was pretty good at the time, and I don't really know what he's doing now. I think he's at some school, or he may not be in school anymore, but I know he's making a lot of money. So I think that's he definitely ended up being more than successful at the end of the day. So it's actually no, I think he made his own like Bitcoin or whatever, like his own coin or whatever that he can trade with. Man. Yeah, so he was pretty dang smart for one, and apparently he went to Harvard for a little bit, so he definitely had the brains there for sure. Yeah, absolutely, and then some. But I had to wrestle off him, and I won that wrestle off, and I wrestled to the way that I wanted to wrestle. Yeah, and just the jump from that jump from my 8th grade year to that first wrestle off was just like. There was like so many levels in between it, you know, the motion, the leg attacks, the hand fighting, the everything. Just there were so many little minuscule levels to just even get to that point of winning that wrestle off. So it was huge. It was freaking mind blowing, and that was a big moment for me. And I think an even bigger one from that, which was right at the beginning, was Iron Man.
Okay.
I was untested. I was unranked as a freshman in high school, and just being at that level, being at that tournament, being with the teammates that I had, dude. Like I was on a team with freaking Bo Bartlett, Lachlan McNeil, dude, like absolute killers. Right. Jacob Kaminsky at the time was really freaking good. He was a cadet world bronze medalist in Greco, which with our Greco status right now is a pretty big freaking deal. Yeah, right. Like, dude, I was on a team with killers, absolute killers. You know, and these are the guys that I surrounded myself with on a daily basis. Man, I was on a team with Nick Bazakis. Nick Bazakis was on that team as well. Can't forget Bazooka. Yep. So Bazooka, I was. That's what we used to call him back on the team. So, man, I had a really high standard to live up to. Like it wasn't necessarily placed on me, but these guys that I had on my team, you know, they expected it of themselves, but they expected it of their teammates and the guys that they were rolling with too. You know what I mean? So it was a lot of pressure. It was a lot of pressure, and there was a lot of eyes on me coming into that tournament. No one had me placing. I wasn't seeded. I think I was seeded maybe like 17th or something like that. Like, oh shit! Like I had like it was it was a tough tournament, man. It was a really tough tournament, and you know, just it took a lot. It took a lot, and it was a battle to get 3rd place. I was beat the hell up after that tournament. My dad has a picture on his phone. It's of me winning my blood round. It was after I won my blood round match, and I FaceTimed him, and my whole mouth is just dripping blood. I don't know what happened, but my teeth are literally bright red. My mouth is soaked. Like I have no clue what happened to this day. I don't know what I did. All I knew is that I was excited as hell, and I had just placed at the freaking Ironman tournament as a 14-year-old kid, as a freshman at 160 pounds. Unheard of. Impressive. Like this isn't 106. This isn't 113. Nothing against my little guys out there.
No. Yeah.
I'm wrestling grown men as an undeveloped 14-year-old kid. I had no facial hair. I had a baby face competing with these guys, man. Like it was tough. And looking back to this, man, it was a tough tournament. Oh God, it was a tough tournament.
To put that into perspective, so that was Powerade. So Liam was
Iron Man.
Sorry, that was Iron Man. So Liam going into his 8th grade year, just before he was a freshman, he was kind of at the 100-pound range just before state came, and I took him in for his health check at the school, and they told me he was 125. I said, he's 100 what? I just literally had him. That was COVID, and I had him registered for that year before they said it was kind of canceled. That I had him registered at 100 pounds. So I took him and I put him in a 15U. He was 12, 13, I think. I put him in a 15U tournament at 125 pounds because I told him, I was like, this is what you're headed towards. So unless you think you want to keep doing this, that was another come to Jesus moment for him. But for you to be going into Ironman at 160 pounds at 14, yes, highly impressive. That, man, you were obviously what Wyoming Seminary was putting into their food was working out all right. And then the work you've been putting in too was pretty impressive. Were you at any point like was that the birth of the mouth guard for you by chance?
No, the birth of the mouth guard was Wrestling Master Giovanni.
Was it?
Yeah, because I got the takedown in overtime, and I came down on his hip with my mouth open. So I took a hip right into my tooth, and my mouth was just completely bloodied. And I remember, like, after the match, my mouth was just in excruciating pain. Adrenaline was gone. And I was just like, oh my God, like I just won this match, but holy piss, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like, this is so painful. I literally had my tooth was literally lodged in my gum. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do about this. And I'm like, so those next couple of weeks, I ended up getting the mouth guard fitted for a mouth guard, and ever since then, I've been wearing a mouth guard. I hate wrestling without one. I can't do it.
So let's talk a little bit now, because everybody can go basically on the Flow Wrestling or whatever to be able to see some of those matches, and you should. I watched about 4 of them today, and dude, it's watching you wrestle, and you're not predictable because you have so much in your toolbox, and watching the pace that you wrestle at and that you're able to go to is impressive. So obviously all this stuff going into everything you put into it, you can see it. I mean, just watching all these Flow matches, where were you starting to get like, I guess not contacted, but coaches, like you're at a tournament, Super 32, for example, anything like that? Where are you starting to have college coaches kind of walk up to you? Hey, we're watching you, buddy. You know, that kind of thing. When did that start to kind of happen for you?
Probably around Ironman. I mean, that tournament
That'll put you on the map.
Man, I mean, it was so pivotal. And I think a lot of people knew who I was. You know, I was a freshman coming in. I was on the starting lineup for Sim. You know, that's already unheard of. Freshman starting lineup at Sim doesn't make a lot of sense. Not a lot of guys do that unless your name's Bo Bartlett.
Right.
And that guy is a hammer in and of itself. And you know, he was then too, even when he was a freshman in high school. So it's just unheard of. Yeah. So that already raised some flags, I think, for people. And I think my performance there, and I think these guys watching me, you know, run through the tournament the way that I did, they were just like, holy piss, dude, this kid might be the real deal. So yeah, and I think that was kind of when I saw coaches. And so my dad went to Mizzou. I'm related to Jaden Cox.
Yes,
that's
cousin.
his alma. Yeah, it's my cousin. That's his alma mater, where he graduated from. 3 national titles there. So I grew up going to the Tiger style camps. You know, I trained with Mike Ironman a few times.
Yeah.
Like that was like my school, I guess you could say. That was where, like, at the end of the day, that's where I thought my head was going, and that's where I thought I was going to be. Like, I ended up having to change my headgear, like, at the beginning of the year, my freshman year, because I would wear this Mizzou headgear with tigers on them, you know? And I was like, I just don't know if that's really what I want to keep wearing. I feel that's going to drift some colleges away from me. So that was the headgear I was wearing at the time. And so I would wear it all the time. And it was my thing. But yeah, so that was like my school that I thought I was always going to end up at. Like, no matter what happens, I didn't even know about the recruiting process at this time. I was like, no matter what happens, I'm going to be a Tiger. what I thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
But I think that match was when I got a lot of eyes, and I obviously got the mail that you guys probably get, the filling out the recruiting sheets, which school sent to everyone, of course. But yeah, that's when it first started to pick up. For sure.
And that's it. And that's kind of why I asked, because your path wasn't the typical path, like, the whole moving at 14 and things like that. And I think it kind of goes with, like, Kerry Colott said the same thing. Like, my dad did this with me. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work with the next kid.
No,
they obviously, your parents were, they talked to you about things. You had some input, and you decided this is what you wanted to do. And obviously it paid off. So we can see.
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely what I needed. You know what I mean? And at that point in time, that was what I needed. And that's the type of parents that I needed, and the type of parents I still have to this day. That's how they operate with me, because they know that is how I thrive. That is how I do my absolute best, and with them in my corner, the way that they are, the way that they have been, that's what I needed. It is not for every kid. It is not for every kid to go to boarding school at 14 years old. It's not. And it takes a special type of kid. Hell, it takes a special type of parent to ship their kid off like that. You know what I mean? It takes a lot. It takes a lot. It takes a special type of household to be able to do that. And I think we had a special type of relationship, me and my mom and my dad, to be able to do that. So
So you was 3 years at Wyoming Sem, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
freshman, sophomore, and junior year.
Yeah. So where those 3 years at the end, let's talk about maybe kind of towards the end of it. Was that because you moved to Iowa City, right? Was that a decision based off of already what college you wanted to go to? Like, how did you guys kind of decide that move?
My junior year was a very, very, very challenging year for me.
Okay.
It started off great. Like the beginning of my junior year, I won Who's Number One in the nation. I completed a milestone of mine since I started wrestling. That was I always wanted to be number one in the nation. That was my thing. Recruiting was tough. Recruiting was really tough, and it doesn't get talked about a lot enough, I don't think. As a high level kid, man, I was getting hounded. Like I was like top 5 in my recruiting class at the time. Like I was getting hounded by schools. Like coach would text me, "Hey, what are you doing?" I don't know. Probably the same thing I was doing 10 minutes ago when you texted me and asked me the same thing. It's still sitting in my room. I'm actually currently looking at my Chem honors homework right now that I have no clue what I'm looking at, because I haven't been able to pay attention to classes because I've been on the phone every second with 20 different college coaches. So so man, it's a lot. It's a lot. And the texts, the calls, the visits, the questionnaires, the freaking everything, man. It's a freaking lot, and it takes a toll on you I was maybe 16 years old. Yeah, I was 16 years old at this time. It takes a toll on you because you're not used to that. You're not used to having that type of like, oh, we want you. You know what I mean? And like, I remember when July 15th is the recruiting date, right? I think that's what it is. I think it's July 15th.
Yeah, it's 15th or 16th. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I think, July. I think it's 15th. It's definitely July. It's definitely July 15th. Yep. Because I remember, so at the time I was still a cadet, but July 14th, I was going to Tulsa duels or junior duels in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Right. And it was July 14th was that night that we left. I'm in the middle of cutting weight. I don't want to deal with people. I'm kind of hating my life right now. Like, I don't want to talk to anyone. Leave me the hell alone. Right. Unfortunately, it just didn't happen for me. So I remember getting on the bus, and my coach is one of my coaches, Coach Terry Allison. He's like, "Hey, dude, like, I know you want to go to bed, but you're going to have to be up." I'm like, "Terry, I just got done working out. I do not want to talk to anyone." And sure enough, before we got on the bus, 12 o'clock hit, I got a phone call. I'm like, "Dude, you got to be shitting me."
Was that Terry Burns?
No, Terry Allison.
Oh, okay.
No, no. I thought, you're just asking who called me? Oh, no. It was Alex Clemson.
Oh, really?
Yep. Because Clemson used to be an assistant at Mizzou.
Yep.
And so we obviously had that relationship from him being there. So
yeah,
that was he was one of my first phone calls. And I was like, I answered it, and I was like, oh, that was pretty cool. And I was like, I just didn't really think people were gonna be calling at 12 o'clock.
Oh yeah.
And dude, this is funny. This is funny stuff.
Yeah.
I go to bed because we took a bus there. We drove from Georgia to Oklahoma. We took a big old, party bus there. Cool. I went to sleep, knocked out. I'm like, dude, I'm tired. I got done working out. We got a long bus ride. I need to go to bed. Go to sleep. I wake up to Terry shaking me. Dude, you need to answer your freaking phone. I got coaches calling me, like, saying you're not answering. I'm like, dude, no, you don't. I grab my phone. I look at it. Holy piss. Missed call, text. Missed call. I'm like, oh my God. And dude, I was just like, I was mind blown. And even when I woke up, the second I woke up, I had another phone call. I'm like, hey, who's this? I'm like half asleep on a bus to Oklahoma. Like, I'm trying to worry about wrestling, but I got all these freaking college coaches blowing up my phone like a crazy girlfriend. I'm like, holy hell, dude. So it was crazy, man. It was crazy. But it was just, it's a lot. And, I say that because that kind of took a toll on me in my junior year. It was just a lot of, it was a lot of the visits were a lot too, man. It's just, we set up my visits for after Who's Number One, and I was gone basically every weekend. Like, one weekend, this visit, next weekend, this visit, next weekend, this visit. I had 5. So I had like 5 weekends of back to back official visits. You know what I mean? And they go all out for your official visits. You eat a lot of food, you get real heavy, and that end of the month, I had to go back to Ironman. So
Nikes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was wrestling 170, and at the time I was just nowhere near 170. So that was makes 2 of us. So I'll give you the whole lore of my junior year.
Yeah.
And that happened in, I think the last one I took was Virginia Tech. I want to say it was my last one that I ended up taking. And so I took that visit, and I came back and I had to certify for I had to certify for the year. I hadn't certified yet. All my teammates had certified, but I hadn't certified yet. So I had to, I was like, here, over here. I'm actually over there too. I had to freaking certify weight. And I didn't certify for my weight class until like that week of Ironman.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I certified, and that took a lot out of me as is. I had to get down to a certain amount of weight. So, because I had to basically be on weight because I didn't have enough time to get it off, and it's the weight certification program works. You weigh in a certain weight, you can lose X amount of weight each week. I had to be on weight because we were the week of the tournament.
Descent program.
Exactly.
Yep.
My descent program was half a pound. I couldn't do, there was nothing more. So we got it in at the last moment. And
holy cow.
Yeah, dude, it was challenging to get down. And so we got there and we got down and got down to weight for Ironman and wrestled the first day. And second day rolled around and it was challenging to get weight off. I had to put so much back in me because I had completely fried my body that whole week, just to freaking make weight for certifications, and just weight was sticking on me, man. I couldn't get it off, and it sucked. It was awful, and that was like one of my worst weight cutting times right there. And just it took a lot out of me.
Were you ever kind of taught about not weight cutting, but like nutrition, especially with the Wyoming Sem?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I definitely had my fair share of nutrition meetings and how to do it the right way. Was I listening? Absolutely not. Because I talked about marching to the beat of my own drum sometimes. Yeah, I do that a little too much, actually.
The drum is your plate. Yeah,
exactly. I'm just picking up food to mouth.
Sure. Yeah.
But anyways, so day one of Ironman happened, and couldn't get that weight off. And second day came around, and I missed weight by 1.5 pounds, something like that. I missed weight by a whole pound, and like I said, it was tough. And, that was junior year was hard. And that kind of started the descent a little bit. After that, I took some time off and regathered myself and came back home and had a couple more house visits. And by that time, I wrestled Powerade, and Powerade didn't go the way I wanted. After I thought this was before Powerade. So I went back home. I went back home after a tournament week. It's called I forget the name of it, but we have our own tournament that Wyoming Sim runs. And so I didn't wrestle in that. I skipped that. After that, I went back home because Ironman's in December-ish time. Yeah. So by then, it's time to go back home for Christmas. Okay. So I went back home. I was home for a little bit. And the time that I was home, we had made a decision on which school I was going to. And so it was a huge weight lifted off my plate. But I still had the voices and everything else going on and having to deal with it. So Ironman ended up not going as planned. Ended up getting I lost on the front side to Danny, and then on the back side I lost to Rocco. Sucked butt, but it was what it was. And that was, but it was, to me, like, that tournament sucked because I didn't win, but at the same time, it was such a sigh of relief because I had already committed. I had told Iowa that I was going to be there, and I told all the other coaches no. Like, it was a huge weight lifted off my shoulder, but I still had a little bit of carry-on anxiety from that a little bit because of, just telling coaches no and making this big decision. Like, this is a big life-changing decision. Yeah. So at Powerade sucked not winning it, but at the same time, I was like, whew, dude, like, I am glad this is over. I am more than glad that this is over. This is the greatest thing ever. It felt like a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. And I remember, like, I stayed at my girlfriend's place. My girlfriend at the time, I stayed at her place after Powerade, and I was there. I was just so happy because it was just, this recruiting process was done, and I made the right decision and knew where I wanted to be at, and it was it was a great time, man. I had found my home, and even with Powerade not going the way I wanted, I was happy, I was content, and I got back to Sim. And I worked out that day. I felt great. And then that next morning rolled around, and I was like, I'm going to go work out in the morning. It's time to get back on my horse. It's time to do the things that I know I need to be doing to be the best possible wrestler I possibly can. Yeah. And this was a practice I didn't have to go to. I went, and I was doing well. I was wrestling well. And I'm going live with one of the guys on the team. And I'm wrestling them, and I place my hands on them, and I turn my hands, and my body turns, but my leg stays in the mat. Oh no. Second that happens, heard a pop, and that was all she wrote. I was in instant pain. I was just like, I knew something was wrong. And it was my meniscus. It's not a huge thing, but at that point in time, we were at the end of the season. So I had maybe a couple more events left we had like a couple duels left, and then we had a tournament, then preps. I didn't have enough time to get my knee healed. My meniscus was displaced, and it sucks because that was the week of the Blair duel.
Big one for you guys, man.
Yeah, it's a huge one for us, Yeah. And I lucked out of it, and that my junior year was just so high and low, and it was more low than high more than anything, and I needed my parents with me. Yeah. No matter, we knew at the end of the day, no matter if, because we were throwing around the idea of, because I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave, but at the time I didn't have, Scott Green wasn't there at the time. Scott was coaching at West Point. The assistant coach that had been with me since my freshman year, he wasn't there anymore. He was coaching at another school. It was, what else is his name? Cornell. Cornell was the head coach at the time. And he's not I won't say anything bad about him because he's not a bad coach whatsoever. He has tons of success. Yeah. But he wasn't what I needed. Yeah. He wasn't what was for me at that point in time. I needed someone to be up my butt, and I needed someone to, because I'm still a kid, man. I'm still in my development years. I still needed someone to take me under the wing and really push me to the level I needed to be at. Yeah. And I just didn't have that, and So that took a toll on me, took a toll on my mental, took a toll on my wrestling, took a toll on everything, my emotional, just everything. And junior year was rough. It was a rough year for me. And after that, me and my parents decided, we were like, wherever it's going to be at, it's either going to be here, it's either going to be at Sim or it's going to be in Iowa City. We're going to be with you, you know? Yeah. And I was completely fine with that because that's what I wanted. I knew I wanted my parents with me for my senior year of high school. You know, I wanted them to be there for senior night and to take pictures and to walk out with my mom on the mat and her get flowers. You know, these are things that you want to do as a senior in high school, man. And I wanted my parents to be a part of it for my senior year, you know? And so we didn't know where it was going to be at the time, but me and my dad came and we saw a duel. We watched, I think Iowa was wrestling Wisconsin at the time, a couple years ago. And then we came out for a duel, and Ben was like, jokingly, he was like, "Hey, dude, come check out my high school." I'm like, "All right, dude." Me and my dad think it's just going to be super informal. It's just going to be me and him, me, Ben, and my dad. The head coach ended up coming and showing us around. So wow, we got the walk around of the school, and we're like, "Wow, nice. Man, this is cool." Not thinking anything of it, of course. Me and my dad had a few conversations of maybe moving here. And we're like, "Yeah, it probably just wouldn't happen." Like, what are we thinking, dude? All right, whatever. We come here for training camp. The training camp you guys have actually been to a couple of times. Training camp for the U.S. Open. We go there and so my mom ended up coming up. Nice. Why, I don't really know. You know, I think we wanted to see the coaches again, see the school, hang out with the coaches, whatever. Cool. Yeah, I was there. Exactly. Now. You know, I was there to train for the freaking Open. Yeah. At that time, I was still U17. I was training for U17 trials. I was hanging out with all my boys, Colby, Ben, all those guys, you know. Nice. Yeah. Nice. So that happened. They came out. And so now my mom, my dad went to City High, got a tour from the principal and the head coach. And so, for lack of a better term, shit started to get real. Right. At this point, you know, we're like, all right, dude, this ain't no just casual walk around, you know. Yeah. And we had I remember we had a talk, and we were just like, yeah, dude, I think this is we got to make that. It wasn't until after trials, U17 trials, that we made the decision to move to Iowa City, because trials didn't go the way I wanted. Yeah. And I didn't have what I needed still then. Okay. And we didn't think that I was going to get what I needed at Sim again, you know. Okay. It was a tough decision to make, because that was the place I called home for 3 years. Right. Getting there was hard. Leaving there was even harder. Yeah. You know, I had made so many friends. I had made so many just friendships that I still have to this day. One of my roommates that I roomed with, I still talk to this day. I FaceTime him all the time. Yeah. He lives in California. I talk to him all the time. His name's Chris, and he's one of my best. He was one of my best friends then, one of my best friends now. You know, I had to leave all that behind. You know what I mean? That's a huge chapter in life, man. I mean, that was on your own chapter. Time, you know? Yeah, exactly. So, you know, so it was tough, man. It was really tough. Trials didn't go the way I wanted to. I was still not feeling the greatest emotionally and mentally. Yeah. And you know, my parents and I decided it was time for a change. And we made that big leap from living in Georgia to moving to Iowa City, and man, we haven't looked back since. But I talk about after trials a little bit, because we talked about earlier about, you know, just being able to take a break, walk away from a little bit. And after trials, that was one of the times I knew I needed to take a break, because if I would have kept competing, I would have burnt out. Okay. And interesting. We took time off. I took a lot of time off. My next time competing after cadet trials wasn't until Elite 8 that August. Okay. Yeah. That was a break. Yeah. Yeah. I took a long time off. Long time off, and it was just strictly training, strictly being around friends and the people that care about me and that I care about. And man, it was the best time for me. It was the best second time. I can appreciate that, because looking at what, you know, just kind of like with Liam right now, with the amount that, like, when we talk about COVID, man, I was taking him to any dual tournament I could get him into, because he didn't know when the stuff was going to close up. Yeah. And running him through the gauntlet all the way up until, you know, 15, when we finally got him to a spot where I'm like, I can let him go. Yeah. But you get to a certain point. I mean, it could be at 14 or it could be your junior year, where you got to be able to sit back and be like,
I really love this thing, but I need to get it's almost recentering, right? Like
Absolutely.
you're getting back to what you thought the person you were, being a kid, going camping or, doing whatever, just having fun and just not having to think about it.
Doing the things that make you happy, man.
Yeah. That make you, right. That's, I mean, it could be either it's, Liam or you or Austin Asanto, doesn't matter who it is. You got to figure out who you are and do the things that are going to make you recenter, especially when you're in such a grueling sport that this is.
Absolutely.
You guys are taking that trip around the high school. You guys made the move. You obviously had made your decision on where college is going to be.
Yep.
At that point, where did you find yourself refocusing on what you actually want to do? Obviously, everybody wants to win, an NCAA title. Who doesn't want that, right? That's why you go to a Big Ten school like Iowa, to be able to accomplish those things. Did you ever think about, and we know you compete in it, but were your eyes on a larger prize the whole time when you were thinking about a college? Because even talking to Liam, his goals are trying to get to world trials or world teams and in Olympic trials and Olympic teams. Was your focus a little further down the road and not so in front of you? Like next year's, I got to make sure I get to the Big Tens or anything like that. When you were thinking about college, were you thinking about RTC? How am I going to train to become the best guy that I can make a world team, Olympic team, aside from NCAAs? Was that your thought process as well?
My thought process was, I need to be at the place that's going to make me the best Gabe Arnold I can possibly be. Right. And all those milestones, all those minuscule things that you talked about in the grand scheme of being a better person, I would fit the bill for all of us. Awesome. So national titles, world titles, Olympic titles, all these, I say minuscule because for me, my thing is I try to minimize these materialistic things that, people will forget about along down the road, I minimize them because in the grand scheme of what I want to become, they're small and they do not matter. And as much as they may matter to me and, I really want to be a world champ. I really want to be an Olympic champ. I really want to be a 4-time national champ. Like I really want to do those things, but I got to look at the huge picture of, this crazy thing that we call life, you know what I mean? And it's important, and it's things that you have to do to stay centered. And that's what the time that I had from trials a couple years ago to, Elite 8 duels, that was what I did in that time. I recentered, and for me to stay within myself, to stay who I am, to keep my composure, I had to realize how small these things were in the grand scheme of things. You know what I mean? And it sounds crazy, and I probably sound like this guy who has this like super like weird makeup on life, but it's important because it's how I would cope. It's how I cope. It's how I am able to do the things that I do and compete at a high level and go to Iowa and do XYZ, it just doesn't matter. You know what I mean? And it's what I have to do, what I have had to do to be at the level that I'm at. But I knew that if that is what I wanted, what I'm telling you right now, if that is really what I wanted, Iowa was the choice for me, and they fit the bill for being the best version of Gabe Arnold. And they want that for me as well. And obviously they want the titles, they want the accomplishments, they want the dreams that I have. They want all those things, but they care about me being a better person. And Tom and Terry instilled that into me, and Morningstar and Telford and Dennis and all those guys in that room instill that into me on a daily basis. And it reminds me that I made the right decision, a couple years ago.
That's awesome. As you're edging towards the end of high school, because you moved to Iowa City, I watched your finals match, close match. Dude, that was a barn burner, man.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you that. But you gave those guys a show. Both you guys did. I mean, it was an awesome match, right? I'm watching now you're wrestling 174 this year, I believe, right? I don't know if you can give whatever, but I think you're wrestling 174. What weight was that your senior year?
82.
182. Let's talk about that for a minute. So I know you talk about cutting and having to make weight for certain things. And once you get to a certain level, it's just part of the game. When you started getting bigger, were you always wrestling up and not cutting? Like, let's say you're cutting, it sounds like an Iron Man, you're cutting it quite a bit because it was hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Were you ever at a point where you're like, I'm done cutting, I'm going to wrestle up?
Yeah, that was my senior year.
That was your senior year.
My senior year, I did that because I was like, I'm going to wrestle 74 next year. There's no reason for me to drop lower than 74. I'm not wrestling 170. I refuse to. And so I was like, yep, not happening. I'm going up. And then Connell was okay with it. Hell, I was okay with it. I was like, yeah, dude, this is awesome. Let's do it.
Yeah.
We needed it at the time. We needed an 82. And I was like, hey, it turns out I happen to be 182 pounds. Works out perfectly, actually.
Yeah. That's
so,
awesome.
Yeah, that was the decision. And I think the times in the past, it was never necessarily cutting per se.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be a little fat kid and not worry about my weight and not care about nutrition. Right now, I'm in that same position. You know, I wrestle 74, and right now, this is me being brutally honest, I'm probably like $195 right now.
Nice.
Just how it goes. Once preseason hits, that weight will go down. And after the last run of preseason, I'll be back walking around 85. Just how my body works. I lose weight like this. I go in practice right now. Heck, I'm gonna walk out of the practice losing 10 pounds. So
yeah, you guys do some pretty decent practices. I mean,
and my body just fires. Once I get going, body gets fired, metabolism starts rolling, sweat starts coming off, weight starts dropping.
Yep.
Just how it goes, you know. And at this point in time, I got it down to a science of, you know, where I need to have my weight at to be efficient and not feel like absolute dog piss. So yeah,
that's important. Yeah,
it's huge, man. It's huge at this level, you know. Even with the 2-hour weigh-in, man, you cut your nuts off trying to get down the weight. Oh, dude, you're gonna feel absolutely terrible. There's no way around it. There's no way around it. And everyone thinks it's 2-hour range. It's great. Don't get me wrong. It's way better than 1 hour.
Right.
But it still sucks.
Yeah.
It doesn't make getting down the weight any more fun.
Not at all.
It's still a struggle. It's still a challenge. You know what I mean? And it's definitely nice. It's definitely a change. But, you know, if you don't do it the right way, you're going to hate your life. So, yeah.
So you had a great season your senior year. I think it's pretty evident. I think a lot of people know that. I think what I want to know, but I watched a couple of interviews with you. It was, I think one when you were still at Iowa City. And they kind of asked also on media day, once you guys were at the university, what was your mind frame going from now you're a senior and then you jump into the Hawkeye wrestling room? I'm imagining, just throwing it out there, you probably had a couple practices already in the Hawkeye wrestling room to kind of see what it was like and kind of get the feel for it because you're right in town, right? So was that transition for you because you were right there? Was that transition in just a little easier because you saw the things that you needed to do and probably put into place by the time you got there?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. My senior year, I was there every day. Yeah. Don't know if I broke any rules there, but hell,
why wouldn't you be?
You can't put me in trouble for things that have already happened, right?
Yeah, right.
No. They can't get me in trouble. But anyways, I was in there by myself on my own accord.
Nice.
Okay, yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Anyone?
Anyways, yeah, man, but it definitely made the transition a lot easier. You know what I mean? I'm already here. I already know what to expect out of the coaches. I know who my teammates are. I know everything about these guys, you know, because I'm here with them. I see the work that they put in. They see the work that I put in. You know, it's for a multitude of different reasons. It makes sense to be there early. You know, it's it's like taking a gap year. You know what I mean? It's like you got kids who graduate high school and then they go to the OTC. You know, it's the same thing. It's basically the same thing. Only difference is I'm still wrestling in high school. You know what I mean? I basically just took a gap year. That's all I did. I wrestled in Iowa City. I wrestled in Iowa, the state of Iowa.
Yep. But,
you know, that wasn't necessarily what I was worried about. It was, I was here so I could get used to being here, you know, and Iowa City is unique because it's a college town, you know? So basically all the time, you know, I was downtown hanging out with friends, or I was going to eat downtown or doing stuff downtown, you know? So I'm immersed in that culture. I know what to expect. I knew how tough it was going to be to park for classes before I was even there. You know what I mean? So I knew the struggles that were going to be faced, so it's definitely, Iowa City is definitely unique when it comes to that because of, how rich and immersive of a college town it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was definitely huge for me to be here early. I know the traffic of downtown Iowa City. I know how quick it's going to take me to get from point A to point B. I know how quick it's going to take me to get from Pomerantz all the way over to freaking where we have to meet with Doug and all that stuff. I forget the name of it because I haven't been in school in so long.
Yeah.
But I know these things, and being here a year early made that transition that much easier. So I would definitely say for kids that are, you already have your school decided, where you're going to be, this is going to be the place. I think try to get your parents to move with you if you can. If you can't, figure out a way to get there early by yourself. Find someone to stay with or something, because I really think it made my wrestling jump levels. I was so much happier. My mental was just like, dude, I was glowing being here. I love it. I love being here, man. I love Iowa City. I love everything about this place. And the school that I was at, City High, was amazing. It was what I needed. It was exactly what I needed. And it was like that. It was my senior year was just such a breath of fresh air, man, to be honest. Like, did it suck not making that road team? Yeah. But it was just, dude, like I had no worries. It was all I had to do was focus on school and wrestling. I had my parents here, man. It was great.
Good.
It was awesome, man. And I had a great team at the time. I loved City High. I will forever be indebted to that place. Coach Connell was probably the best thing that could have happened to me. I needed another coach like that, like the way he was with me. And he was awesome. He still is awesome. Another one of those guys I built a great relationship with, and I still keep in contact with to this day, because he was just that amazing for me, man. And it was what I needed. And he did so much. He probably doesn't even know how much he did for me, but he did so much for me that he will probably never know. Maybe if he watches this interview, he'll comprehend. He'll know, but he did. He did a lot. He did wonders for me. And, my senior year was awesome, man. It was, like I said, a breath of fresh air, and that's the best way to put it.
So you roll up, now you're an Iowa Hawkeye, right? You made the decision, you're there. You're going to school. I remember in an interview, you talked about time management. You kind of talking about it already, as far as trying to figure out how to get to where and doing what. So you're starting to figure the stuff out that a parent hopes that their kid figures out, right? Just because holy crap, if he doesn't figure out how to get to class on time, we're screwed, and we're going to be paying more money than we want to from the school.
Exactly.
So when you finally get to that point where you've been training, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Hey, we need you to suit up tonight." What was that like in Carver Hawkeye, putting that singlet on and coming out with the flames going, and the whole selling point of Iowa is just that environment.
Yeah.
What was that like for you growing into that? I already saw what happened, obviously, with the state finals that you had. I mean, Iowa loves wrestling. No one's dummy to that. But now you're in Carver Hawkeye. What was that like for you that first time you put that singlet on and walk out?
I've always been a fan of the big lights. I love wrestling and it just being me and me.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And that's how I view it. I love the fans of Iowa. I love that. It's just something about it that just freaking puts a big old shitting grin on my face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I love it, and I show up for it every time. I love the atmosphere. I love being immersed in that. It's what I love. It's what I live for, man. I love that feeling. And I was definitely nervous my first time coming out, man. And it's a lot, but the second I step on that mat and I thank the Lord for putting me in the position that I'm in, I know it's go time, and I get out there and I do what I got to do. And, hopefully I come away with the win almost every time. That's the plan. That's what we like to do, obviously. Yeah. But, it was amazing. There's just no other way to put it. It was just, I never really had the feeling of like Ben, for instance. Ben had that feeling of growing up being a Hawk fan, and all he could think about when he started wrestling was walking out in those warm-ups, in that singlet, being that guy. I never had that, but I can imagine what it was like to have that dream And, I've lived that, so that in and of itself is a blessing to be able to do that. Not many people can say they've done that. Not many people at all. There's a very small percentage of people that can say they ran out of that tunnel with that singlet on and went to freaking war in Carver Hawkeye Arena, and I'm glad I get to be a part of that small percentage. But it was amazing, man. And I loved it. I lived for it, and I cannot wait to do it 1,000 times over in these next 4 years. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun, and this next year is gonna be super fun, and I cannot wait for it. I cannot wait to see what the season brings. But I'm excited.
I know we're excited to watch. I mean, no one's dumb enough to think that I'm not an Iowa fan. I have been since I was 5 years old, since the Brands brothers have been wrestling. So that's just where I stand. And when you mentioned, it was funny when you mentioned wearing the headgear with the Missouri stickers on it and stuff like that. Like, I think it was Liam's freshman year. We were like, hey, maybe not wear so much Iowa stuff. I mean, we don't want to paint a picture quite yet about what we, because you always keep your options open. It was nice going down to that camp because you had guys like DeSanto and you and Drake Ayala and all those guys telling Liam, like, hey, just still keep your mind open. You still got to figure out you. Like, you have your dreams, you have your aspirations, but you still got to figure out you. So it was good to hear that from those guys down there, because I could sit there and be like, man, I want my kid to be a Hawkeye, man. But I want him to go, I'm going to be a fan of wherever he goes.
Absolutely.
I'm still going to be turning on Flow or ESPN or whatever to watch the Iowa Hawkeyes wrestling no matter what. I mean, I had season tickets for like 2 years down on that. So we're always going to be fans of that, but we're going to be fan of no matter where he goes. When you started you got into the groove, you started wrestling, we saw you at some events, saw you at some duels, you're wrestling, trying to get in world teams, things like that. Are you finding yourself that decision? And you said it, you love it there, and it's the place where you're growing. Have you decided that maybe this is someplace I stay to coach? Is that something that's on your brain as far as getting towards and you still got 4 years left. I don't want you to think of the end of your career yet, but when it comes down to it, what are your aspirations once you're done with college? Once you're done being in school, what do you want to do?
My plan is to play with venomous snakes for the rest of my life.
Damn, you and Max Mirren, huh?
Well, Max is coaching, and I think Miss Hiss was just I think he just cared for her in the best way he could.
That was his thing.
He loved having her, but I plan on taking this reptile thing all the way. My main goal is to have a reptile zoo where I milk venomous snakes, and that's my dream.
What the hell are you talking about? Holy shit! Okay,
so
okay,
I mean, so there's obviously when you get bit by a venomous snake, there's anti-venom, right? Well, for anti-venom to be made, same thing with antibiotics, you got to have venom, right?
Yeah.
So you extract said snake venom and you ship it off to these people, and they inject it in the cattle, which creates the antibodies. They pull it out of said cattle, put it into a little capsule, spin it around super fast, and then so by time you get it, you'll get it in a powder form, but it doesn't turn into a liquid until it's mixed in with the IV fluid.
You're a biomedical genius at this point right now. Holy cow, man.
Dude, this has been my dream since I've been a kid, man. I've loved snakes. I've loved reptiles since I was young, man. I have 6 snakes. I got 1 in my room right now. My other 5 are at my parents' place right down the street. So I absolutely live for this stuff. I love it. And I that's what I plan on doing. I want to play with venomous snakes and things that are probably going to kill me once this is all said and done. The coaches won't let me do it now.
Of course not.
They need me for at least 4 more years. Well,
you were surrounded by water moccasins and stuff like that down in Georgia.
Me and my brother grew up catching those things all the time. We grew up catching rattlesnakes and copperheads and water moccasins and freaking garter snakes, dude, you name it. I grew up around those things. I know how to catch them. I've headed venomous snakes plenty of times in my life. I'll do it again. It's nothing new to me. I love it. I love it so much. And it's like a lot of people get their thrill and adrenaline from being on heights. I am honestly not a big fan of heights, and I know a lot of people are afraid of snakes. So my poison is snakes. I choose snakes, and I love playing with them. And particularly, I love playing with venomous ones. So That's my thing, and that's what I love those things, man. They're awesome.
Someone's got to do it, man. Someone's got
to do it, and unfortunately, it just happens to be me. So
we know your plans. Okay, you're gonna
doesn't mean once I'm done. Yeah, it doesn't mean once I'm done competing, I'll be away from it forever. But I've been thinking about this since I was a kid, man, and I would be stupid not to live out that dream that I've wanted to do. You know what I mean?
Talking about the Gabe path. That's the Gabe path.
Exactly. I told you I marched the beat of my own drum, and my drum ain't for everybody. So
definitely not me. That's for sure. I'll say, you want to invite us to have a look at some snakes? It's fine, but I'm going to do that whole COVID thing. 6 foot distance. That's for sure.
Maybe a little bit more. That's for sure.
Yeah, maybe depending how long the snake is. For God's sakes. So let's talk about a couple things here. I had a guy that said he wanted me to ask a couple questions. I'll ask one of them. So obviously we've gotten to see you wrestle on some of the other levels as far as trying to make world teams, things like that. We watched a match with you wrestling a guy from Nebraska, right? And it came to the end. You were winning. You won. Doing some butt patting. Was that just a, hey, good match, buddy? Nice try though, kind of thing? Was that fun? Was that just kind of rising a guy up a little bit? Because I get it.
For one, he did nothing the whole match. That's for starters. I wasn't a hugest fan of that. I never am.
Liam's not either. He hates that. Yeah. Yep.
For two, he's starting to get a little chippy with me. And if you're gonna give it back to me, I wrestle in the Iowa room every day, dude. I'm not the guy to give it to because I promise you, I will give it right back to you.
Yeah.
So he started with me a little bit, and I smacked one of his butt. I was saying, solid work.
Finished it.
Yeah, no, I said solid work, A for effort. And he got up with me and he kind of shoved me and he looked at me a little bit like, oh dude, I'm not the one to do that. And he kind of gave me a little nudge. So I shoved him back down to the mat. And then he kept trying to wrestle. He grabbed my feet and I'm like, dude, at that point, I've smacked you on the butt. I've shoved you on your back. Why are you grabbing my feet and trying to bite my ankle right now? Like you're making yourself look worse. I've already made you look really dumb at this point. So, at this point, we should probably just leave it alone before things really get out of hand. But it's no hard feelings. It's all in the
it's thing. Scrapping, man.
No. And people had their comments about it and wanted to call me a punk and everything else. But everyone has opinions about everything that I do, no matter which side that I'm on. It just doesn't make it any easier than I'm wearing an Iowa singlet. So
let's talk about that. How do you block the noise out? At the end of the day, because you even told me you're like, hey man, I'm not on here a whole lot, kind of on social media itself, right? Like everybody says, oh, nowadays kids should be on social media more, sell themselves, blah, blah, blah. Liam's not that much, he's not, he doesn't hear a lot of the noise that goes on, that kind of thing. Yeah. So as a high level college athlete like that, how are you able to block out the noise and still be able to be you?
Delete my socials.
Nice. Hey.
That's so I do it. I've done deleting my socials since I was a freshman in high school, like leading up to big competitions. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter goes bye-bye. All of it goes bye-bye. I just don't. It's not what I need to immerse myself in before I get ready for a big tournament. You know what I mean? And I still have TikTok. I look at TikTok. I scroll through it. I'm like, oh, dude, this is awesome. I like looking at that. I got to have something to occupy me. I'm like a big iPad kid. I like looking at YouTube and stuff, watching videos, all that kind of stuff. It's my thing. I like doing that. But,
good for you.
At this point, it's like, man, social media is so hit or miss nowadays. It's like I sometimes it's sometimes beneficial. Most of the time it's not. Like after trials, I completely deleted all my socials and I've been off of them since.
Nice.
I've stayed off of them just because it's so like people say words don't hurt. Man, as an athlete, people will make sure that words will hurt.
Yeah.
And they will they will dig it into you. And even the people that say they love you, dude, you got your own fans saying, dude, screw this kid. I'm like, God, ow.
Yeah, right.
Aren't you a Hawk fan? I'm pretty sure I signed a picture for you and you hate me now? What the hell? I'm like, dude, come on. I can't win for losing out here. But so it's a battle, and just like everything in this sport, it's a battle. And finding the fine line for you is important. I know my fine line. Also, a lot of the time what people say really does not bother me that much, because I grew up in a household of just like I grew up with an older brother, so I've taken just about everything there is to take. So, and at the end of the day, I know the type of person that I am, and I know what I stand for, and the things that these people say and what they say to me about me. It will never faze me to the point that they think they faze me, because they say these things because they think they get a rise out of you and everything else, and and this, that, and the third, and like I said earlier, opinions are like assholes. We all have them.
That's right. I know you're a good kid, man. Obviously Liam was down there. You kind of took him under your wing a little bit. And obviously we were kind of doing things a little crooked. He was trying to lose weight for the US Open when he shouldn't have been trying to drop that much weight. And we actually bumped him up a weight class then to wrestle, above. And that's genuinely what we've always done with him. So you took him a little under your wing, practiced with him a little bit. And plus I know he got to kind of hang out with you guys a little bit too. So
absolutely.
that was nice for him to be able to witness the things that what you guys obviously show off the mat, having fun, being kids, being the guys that you are, and gelling as a team for the most part, and being able to do what you guys want to do, and being able to keep that mind frame's tough and have all that noise.
We are one big dysfunctional family. We love each other to death, but damn, we're dysfunctional.
Hell yeah.
And
that keeps things interesting.
Absolutely. And we all have our own different personalities and the things we love to do. We all march to the beat of our own drum, man. And it's just, that's what makes our team so unique, man. And I think even with, we got guys who aren't starters who are awesome to be around, and we hang out with them every day. It's not, okay, this guy is here, so everyone else is down here, so we have to worship this guy. No, it's everyone together. And it's just, like I said, we're one big dysfunctional family. We fight all the dang time. We punch each other in the mouth in practice. We put each other in the trash can. But the second we walk into that locker room, or we get in that sauna, or we're in the shower together, man, it's just one big dysfunctional family, man. And we love each other to death. We love each other like brothers, and we'll go to war for each other every single day, every time out. It doesn't matter where we are or who we're with. You know what I mean? It's just how it goes. So I'm glad that I'm here on this team, because there's no one else I would rather do that with. You know what I mean? There's after being here I've been here for an actual year now, being around the team constantly, and it's instilled in me that I chose the right place, and there's no one that I would rather do this with besides the coaches that I have, besides the teammates that I have. You know what I mean? It's just, it's refreshing knowing that I made the right decision, even after a year. So
tell you. Well, dude, we've been talking for a while, man, and I really appreciate you. And what I always like to do at the end, I've been doing this recently, is if you got shout outs, things like that, people you want to kind of, talk about, just like, hey, I have much respect to this person. Feel free to let them fly. I don't even care if it's a company. This stuff doesn't bother me. So what you got shout outs? You don't have, no?
I've shouted out everyone. My parents, of course, mom and dad, of course. All my coaches back home, Terry, Donovan, Coach Charlie, all those guys, coaches I have here, of course.
Yeah.
They all know who they are. Tom, Terry, Morningstar, Telford, all those guys, Dennis, Chad Beatty, the man.
Yeah.
All those guys, man. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm in the best place to be the best version I can possibly be. So I'm grateful for that. So thank you.
That's awesome. Well, we're going to end it with that, man. And I'm going to talk to you for a second after we're done, but, hey, everybody, this has been Gabe Arnold here on the Vision Quest podcast. Hope you enjoyed it, because it was his story. So, all right, man, we'll talk to you on the side here, but to everybody else, peace.
Thank you, guys.
All of our episodes are brought to you by Appleton Tattoo, located at 117 South Appleton Street in Appleton, Wisconsin, right off the main drag on College Avenue. You can't miss them. I've had some work done. I have a Celtic cross that covers my back that was done by Jason. We're not done yet. Jason Winans and crew, the artists that he have there, those guys are the best in the Fox Valley. They are definitely one to go to if it's something that you've just been kind of throwing around. They'll make you feel comfortable. It's a very clean environment, very nice crew, and very willing to get done whatever you need done when you need it done. You can message them on Facebook. I know they're on Facebook. You can give them a call. at 920-604-8289, and get in touch with Jason Winans and crew at Appleton Tattoo, located again in Appleton, Wisconsin at 117 South Appleton Street, right in Appleton. Very flexible hours, great crew, clean environment again. I would not send you anywhere else except for these guys. Appleton Tattoo.